So, I was watching SportsCenter at the gym the other day. I was at the gym because, yeah, I do even lift, bro. And at the time I was watching it, they're talking about Trade Center, SportsCenter's coverage of the NHL trade deadline. It's past now, but for the uninitiated, team sports will often have a cutoff point in the season where you can make trades. After that, you're stuck with the team you have until the end of the season. I also found out very recently that at no point during the season can you sell your shitty players to dog food companies to free up room under the salary cap. That seems really restrictive. Anyway, the SportsCenter dickbag goes, Trade Center is no longer just a one-day thing, it's a week-long event. And I was thinking, there's a fucking guy. In fact, there's more than one guy who's like, oh man, I hear that. And is following every trade, discussing possible trades with their friends. There are people who take the fucking day off work on the trade deadline day and sit there and watch 7 hours of non-stop sports news coverage about trades. And fine, you really like your favorite sport. Great. But here's the issue I have. Sports fans, some, not all, I shouldn't have to explain this to some of you mouth breathers, but this is how comedy works. You generalize to make a point and exaggerate to make a funny story funnier. Some of you people in my comments sections would be all sorts of fun at a stand-up show. Excuse me, Mr. CK, hi, yeah. I don't think the guy literally meant to suck a bag of dicks. I think it was just sort of an angry expression. Plus, did that really happen? What kind of car was he driving? Fucking hell. Anyway, some sports fans tend to be very judgy when it comes to geeks and nerds and the things that they like. Jocks and nerds have been at odds forever, as we saw, of course, in the 80s masterpiece, Revenge of the Nerds, the 1955 versions of Biff and George McFly in Back to the Future, and in present day, jocks and sports fans like to make fun of people who dress like their favorite characters and go to sci-fi conventions, play World of Warcraft or tabletop games like Warhammer, or pen and paper RPGs like Dungeons & Dragons. They mock people who can name every Spider-Man villain or every obscure Star Wars character, and can rhyme off what issues of X-Men comics that Juggernaut appears in, or however many hit points Sephiroth has, and yes, I know, I mispronounced that. Fuck off. But let's talk about sports fans for a moment. These same people mocking nerds are walking around dressed like their favorite athlete, wearing their jersey, in public no less, and sometimes to work or school. They're probably in a betting pool or a fantasy league with the guys at work or with some people online, and they can at least name every player on their favorite team, if not many of the other players on all the other teams, and can tell you their favorite team's current win-loss record, how many points certain players have scored this season, in their lifetime, etc. Does any of this sound kind of fucking familiar? No one is ever going to tell me that fantasy football is less nerdy than something like Dungeons & Dragons. You ever seen people obsess over this shit? Oh, I gotta set my lineup. Ah, shit, RG3's out due to injury. Fuck, I need to see if I can get a good running back off the waiver wire. Comparing fucking running and passing yards of various players and how they played in the past against other teams to decide who's gonna be in their lineup that week. How can you sit and judge anyone for anything after spending that much time obsessing over something that isn't real? Your team doesn't exist. Sure, the players do, and their real-life performance affects whether you win or lose your fantasy football game that week, but it's all just that, a fantasy. It's what it would be like if you were actually an NFL coach and got to choose what players you had in your team. How is that really different than someone pretending to be an elf killing orcs or whatever? Because it doesn't sound as stupid? That's only because you like it, it's something you're into. Nerds don't think that the things they're into are nerdy, it's just something they enjoy. I think jocks have this belief that nerds are jealous and wish they could be them. Nerds don't want to be you, they're laughing at you. They're laughing at how obsessed you are over sweaty men who shower together after spending all day falling on top of each other. In fact, sports meatheads and sci-fi or fantasy nerds have way more in common than you'd think. It's rare to meet a normal one, and they're obsessed over shit that isn't important in the grand scheme of life. You want to create a difficult scavenger hunt? Add these 2 items to your list. A baseball fan that has never yelled at an umpire on TV that can't hear them in the first place, or can't tell you what more than 4 of the short forms on a stats page means. And a Star Wars fan that doesn't give a shit whether Han or Greedo shot first, or won't bitch when you say the word metachlorians. You'll be at it for a fucking while. The point of this whole thing isn't to ridicule either side. Alright, it is a little bit about that because I'm a fucking asshole and that's what I do, but it's also about bringing peace to both sides, to make you realize that you're both wasting your lives. And calling each other names is hypocritical, since you're both equally losers who spend a larger than necessary chunk of your waking hours thinking about meaningless shit and distracting yourselves from real life. I get it, real life sucks. It does, it's fucking awful. So instead of trying to make each other feel guilty about their favorite escape from the real world, at the very least, let them enjoy it. And for the truly open-minded, see what's going on the other side of the fence. You might actually just find that you'd enjoy some of that stuff as well. There's no need to talk shit about any of it, because in the end, all the facts you know about John Wall's college career or Scud the Disposable Assassin will mean equally nothing. Your lives aren't changed one bit by knowing who won every Super Bowl or who played every doctor on Doctor Who. And your Babe Ruth rookie card or your Black Lotus Magic the Gathering card will be worth as much to each of you when you're rotting in the fucking ground.